Oh, we did.
Let's stand on the side over there, because if not, I'm gonna
Well,
be
yes, that's good, yeah. All right, now, you can.
All right, I call the meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustments to order this Tuesday at 6:31. We do have a quorum present this evening. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes for the August 12th, 2025, 6:30 meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? Can I get a motion?
Motion passed and minutes.
Okay, we have a motion to pass the
I
minutes. We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Figure it out.
Thank you all very, very much. All right, everybody please stand and face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, new business this evening. 3.1, discussion of possible action on the nomination and election of the positions of chair, vice chair, and second vice chair of the Board of Adjustments.
So what we like to do is, basically what you can do is if you're already a board member, you can choose to stay there, or you can have other board members and nominate someone else. So for the position of chair, how would you all like to do that?
Like
I'll
you
vote
would-
for you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't mind.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Don and Adam.
Okay, and position of vice chair?
Who was it last time?
Your list doesn't actually
Okay.
indicate who that was. 'Cause I was reading that.
No, yeah, I don't think we had enough. Oh, actually, you know what? It was, and she became a councilwoman.
So for vice chair? Would be vice chair?
No rookies.
It's not that hard.
I'm already there, did you promise to show up?
I, hand to heaven.
No one wants it, I'll do it.
Can we get a motion?
I'll
to
second.
Motion?
Okay.
I move to nominate
Don.
Don,
Don.
sorry, Don as vice chair for the zoning board of adjustments.
Second.
All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much, Don.
And for second vice chair? You're five people.
All good.
Very good.
Okay. We get a motion.
Yes. Teresa, right?
Teresa.
Aye. What do I, okay.
You moved
I-
to-
I moved
to nominate Teresa as vice chair.
I'll second.
All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much, Teresa. All right. Second order of business, discuss and possible action on a request for a variance to Chapter 15, zoning Article 15.02, zoning ordinance Division 6, districts, boundaries, and use regulations, Section 15.02.306-R-1, single-family dwelling, subsection C, setback requirements. Line 5, reverse frontage to allow an accessory structure to encroach on the front line of the lot in the rear, located at 6206 Check Range Street, Lot 8, Block 16, CB 4445JA, Canterfield 2 subdivision, on approximately 0.257 acres of land, as presented by Mr. Gallardo.
Okay, so y'all will have to bear with me that you turn around, you can follow along with your PowerPoint, because I do have to use the computer.
Good, Peter. You want me to click it while you stand up here?
That would work. If I'm really afraid. Okay, the question before you is, should the board grant a reverse frontage variance to allow an accessory structure to encroach on the front line of the lot in the rear? So the location or the address in question is 6206 Check Range Street, Lot 8, Block 16, County Block 4445J, Canterfield 2 subdivision on approximately 0.257 acres of land. So your options as a board are to grant the variance, deny, other. Staff declares and recommends denial. So the background, the applicant is Evan Vogt. The variance is in regards to Chapter 15, Division 6, District Boundaries and Use Regulations, specifically Section 15.02.306C, 5, reverse frontage. What the applicant is intending to do is to add an additional shed that would encroach on the front line of the lot in the rear. So we'll get into that a little bit specifically, and I'll show you a little bit of visual so that we have a better understanding of it. The applicant resides at the property, again, 6206 Check Range Street, and is authorized to request the variance. He'd like to install a 380 square foot shed that would encroach on the front line of the lot in the rear. Property again is zoned R1 and has an existing single-family residential structure that was built in 1977. So these are variances that are similar to that. You'll see that most of them are seeking rear yard setback requirements, but none of these are specific to his circumstance or scenario, and I'll explain that a little bit better. Okay, so this was the site plan that was submitted. On the bottom is Check Range Street. On the right-hand side is Horse Trail. So if we click onto the next slide, I've kind of indicated some of the obstacles that the applicant is facing. So he has an existing shed on the top left-hand corner, if you see that, where it says existing shed. Next to that, there's 2 heritage trees. So the only other option that he has is to put it on the right side of the property line when you're looking at that. Because in front of that are 2 crepe myrtle trees, and I believe that family members planted that, so it has some kind of sentimentality to them. But, so then he plans to put the shed there. So you'll see that it's, code asks for 5 feet from the side, but again, because it's reverse frontage, you know, we'll explain why he's not necessarily allowed to do that by code. So the next slide is gonna be a picture of what the house looks like in the front. So there's your front elevation. So again, the shed will go on the right side of the property. If you go to the next slide, there's another angle of that. So essentially, it'll be behind that privacy fence. So this is what it looked like from the neighbor's yard behind him. So this is what we mean by reverse frontage, right? That house faces Horse Trail. His house faces Check Range, but because his backyard puts into that house, the shed isn't allowed to be in front of that house. So another slide that I have will better illustrate that. So this is what the property looks like from above, right? If you look at that yellow line, the shed is in front of that yellow line. Per code, even though it's his corner lot, the code doesn't allow that shed to be in front of the house behind him. Does that make sense? Any questions regarding that? So there lies the issue. So if you look at that, you're gonna see in front of the shed, the makeshift shed that I put there, which is that purple block. There's some crepe myrtles there. If you go further to the right of that towards Mr. Bowles' residence, you'll see two big heritage trees. One of them is fully green and the other one's kind of dying, but there's two full heritage trees there. And then in that back corner there's already an existing shed. But he's allowed, in case anybody's wondering, he's allowed to do that because he hasn't reached the 30% threshold. Any questions regarding that? So that's what the reverse furniture is.
So no structure on that street can be further out, including the two carports that are further down
So-
the road?
So the no structure from his property can be in front of the house behind him.
The driveway faces the front.
So if you look at, like if you look at the other slide that we had. So if you look at that yellow line, essentially,
But my question is, does that line run all the way the
No.
length of Horse Trail?
it doesn't.
It's just for the
specific to that lot.
adjacent property?
So earlier when we listed all those rear setbacks and things like that, this is a little bit more unique than those. So this is specifically to a corner lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's his rear property, but their front property. It's Horse Trail's front property, Evan's rear property.
Gotcha, okay.
And so that, yes, sir.
I'm just curious, there hasn't been a complaint from the neighbor in the back, right?
No, and actually, and as I'll present in the PowerPoint, there's only been like one in favor. Everybody got letters and no complaints, no. Okay, so the city's code has established criteria for evaluation of variances and zoning regulations. Section 15.02.722BB of the zoning code states that this criteria as the basis for providing statements of findings and granting or denying a variance. So granting a variances, to prevail in receiving a variance, the applicant must demonstrate a literal enforcement of the ordinance that would result in unnecessary hardship. The applicant must show this hardship is unique, oppressive, not common to other property, and not against the public interest. Staff finds that this is a unique situation. The property owner is impacted by the reverse frontage requirements. Secondly, not merely that the property can be utilized for its highest and best use. Staff feels that it can still be utilized without the variance. C, not self-imposed. Staff finds that it is self-imposed, so the variance isn't required. D, not simply a hindrance to the developer's goal. Staff finds that this is simply a hindrance of the applicant's goal. 27 letters were mailed out to property owners within 200 feet of the subject site. One letter was received in favor, and none were received in opposition, and none were undeliverable. Staff has reviewed this request and objects for the following reasons. The hardship is self-imposed. Reasonable use can be made of the property without the setback limitations. Any questions? The applicant does have material that he'd like to share with you and, present his side.
Ms. Polk?
Good evening, board. I'd like to first start by passing around this petition that was generated and received signatures as of today. Outside of the 27 letters that were sent and the one that was returned in favor, 6 official signatures were received. Two of them, 3 were not received, but provided an indifferent response. So, for my purposes, I believe that to be a 9 to 10 property approval for this. Out of the 27, it's roughly 33% who either don't care what I do with my property or they approve of me putting a shed back there explicitly. Some of you were here at our first meeting and received a package that I put together to better explain the reason why I'm here and why this variance should be approved. I don't believe you member powers were here, so I do have an extra one for you. This explains the nature of the request, basically stating, also explaining what a variance requirements is needed, and it goes through pretty specifically to answer each and every criteria point for how a variance should be considered. What was unfortunately failed to be mentioned by city staff, and you know, it took a little bit of deep diving into the context of Leon Valley's history, when our codes were written and when they were amended. So I'll give that to Mr. Fajardo, as he's, you know, the director of P&Z, and there's much more pressing matters to attend to that. Effectively, prior to 2023, we're gonna work backwards. Prior to 2023, when Chapter 15, the very chapter y'all are considering, it was amended in 2023 by the then city council to allow use of the side yard for purposes of accessory buildings such as the shed, pools, and any other type of structure that would be considered an accessory structure. Prior to 2023, you could not do that without having to get a variance, or simply were not able to at all. So in 2023, the city's intent and standpoint was to allow every property owner the full reasonable extent use of every square footage within their property line, given reasonable setback requirements and code requirements. But when Chapter 15 was written, it was written back in the 1970s. And that was before 2007, when this city had made a tree preservation law. The language of that law explicitly states the intent, very strong intent, on preservation of our nature in any way that it can. What most people have a misconception of, and what is not really seen there, is that I actually have a pecan tree that's closer to the other shed. That tree would also be subject to the protections that we know that heritage trees are granted. I would have to go through the process of removing that, the cost of removing that, as well as seeking to remove those 2 heritage trees. Now, what's unique to this situation in this property, my property, is that it, after consideration of all other avenues, not only is it unfair to effectively tell me that I cannot exercise the full right of my property, as that all, give or take 3 feet in a, like isosceles triangle way, 3 feet from those trees, the heritage trees, is about what I could use in our side yard, because the trees are aligned almost relatively perfect with the side of my house, which is a far cry away from the side yard rear setback. So the entirety of my side yard is being eliminated in a sense. After further consideration of where I might be able to put this in either order, it is my family's belief, along with the city's belief, in trying to preserve what we truly can. After further considerations, this is what we believe in use of our property space, not just reasonable, it's most efficient. And as the planning and zoning director stated, it is still within, underneath that 30% land use mark. Now, this variances are used to request the most minimal based solutions to when there's inconsistencies in our code. This variance is the very spirit of that, this variance request. I am trying to bridge the city's very strong language and intent to protect the nature in the city with the building code that we currently have and has been amended in 2023, which is allowing every property owner the extent, full use of their property. What wasn't stated, and on the very last page is I kind of go through the history of variances requested. What wasn't there, and actually is much closer to my home on the very diagonal corner of our block. The property owner has the exact same setup that I do in terms of property. His backyard on the portion of it in the side yard is actually reaching into the front setback of the house behind him. He has a 2-story garage shed, almost like a secondary home in a sense. I did speak to that property owner. He provided a little bit of history as to how that building was constructed and the process he took. It was highly irregular from what I could gather, but it exists. It is there. So I have gone through the process of ensuring that everything I am doing remains above board, not irregular, and within the confines of the very spirit of the city's laws. And I stand for questions.
Do they have any questions?
I have a question maybe for staff about the, Mr. Bowles cited 2023 about the property owner should have the maximum use of all of the, the land. But that's in variance with what's in the zoning code. So I'm a little confused about that point.
So, looks like he hit upon the trees, right?
Yes.
Stating that, we're all for saving trees, I'm not gonna debate that. However, the only way that he would get away with like what he's trying to do was if it was prior to July 2021. So I'm not sure where the 2023 portion of it comes. However, that code is specific to reverse furnace. So as far as I know, I'm not aware that there's a property that's in the corner like him facing the same challenge. Could have been prior to 2021, because the code does say, you would have gotten away with that if it was prior to 2021, but then this is also a different reference of the code, and I think he was just kind of alluding to the fact that he's trying to save trees and we're allowed to do that.
So, if I may, to answer your question and to build on that, so it wasn't, the date wasn't necessarily about the saving the tree part, it's about the zoning part. The city council amended the chapter 15 law in 2023. It was ratified in 2023 to allow properties to utilize their side yard with accessory structures. That is all it said, along while keeping setback requirements, which is why we are here asking for a variance. That alone, but then I would tell you, you could deny it because then I could just use the rest of my property, as staff is mentioning. However, we have another law, the tree preservation law, that has been amended, started in 2027. I think it was then in 2014 and 2021. If my memory serves, that each time it was, I guess, the requirements, the costs associated with it, and I believe those changes were made with mind of developers, big developers that were coming in and obviously changing our community. And so the code was either changed to make it easier or make it more stringent upon them, with them in spirit. However, when you make change of law with one party involved in mind, you often do not see the unintended consequences it can drive. So this variance is required simply because I am trying to adhere to both laws at the same time. But the nature of both laws would allow this, and even before 2023 or 2021, I could have built it accordingly. I may have not needed a variance, or I may have needed a different kind of variance. But the alternative path requires several more variances and a much more destructive path, in my view, of our community. And again, I have the support of my neighbors around me. The signatures specifically are collected from those within the legal 200 feet. Like I said, of the 27, today, many people weren't home, they were at work. 3 of them didn't wish to sign, but either didn't care because they view that one's property is one's own doing. And I received 6 signatures from explicit approvals plus the one that was mailed in.
And then to be clear, removing these trees, you have a note on here that, well, obviously it would affect the value of the property, removing large trees, but it would also affect the drainage?
So, no, in adding the structure would not.
No, that's not what I said. To remove the trees would cause problems.
Ultimately, yes, due to
Yeah.
soil erosion,
Yeah.
yes.
You said one tree is dead already and one's alive?
No, they're both still alive.
Oh, okay.
One's just not as blooming as the other. And
Like a lot of trees. Okay.
we've done our absolute best over the years to protect our trees from all the oak wilt that ravages the community quite well.
That's my biggest fear for my property.
But for you to install the shed is for your convenience, and to take down the trees would be for your convenience to build a shed. So there's no necessity for taking the trees down. The necessity comes because you want to build a shed there.
Well,
Or you want to not have to locate the shed somewhere else, which would impact the trees.
correct. So in either path, if I want to put the shed on my property, I have to go through each path a variance path. The idea of variances in themselves is to marry the purpose and intent along with the code in the least minimally impacted way. And this path is not such. And the other path, which still requires a variance, is the most destructive path, just on a factual basis, because it requires removing trees, damaging the soil erosion strength of my yard, as well as removing more trees from the community. And based on the city's language of the tree preservation, it is their intent not to have that. In fact, that law was written to protect it and discourage the removal of those trees. So that would be my answer, sir.
Any other questions? Ready to vote on this? Can I get a motion?
I move to approve the variance as requested.
I'll second that.
I third.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Let the record show we have a supermajority. Thank you very much, Mr. Bowl.
Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. That was
papers so we recycle them. Yeah.
If you want to keep it, you're more than welcome to.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay. Here you go.
Ask the question, but next meeting we'll talk about it.
No problem.
You want all this stuff back? No, you can, whatever you
You're more than welcome to.
No.
Okay. All right. Do we have any more business? Open this up to the public.
From data point, oh, that's only 50 years. Yeah.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? I do adjourn this meeting at 19:02, or 7:02. Thank you all very, very much.
Okay.